The evening was quiet, too quiet, in the small colony settlement at the edge of the alien desert. Wind carried fine silver dust through broken fences, rattling against the man's window. Inside, he sat in his chair, staring at the door. His name was Daniel, though most people didn't call him much of anything anymore. To them, he was just the disabled man, the one who had lost his legs in a mining accident years ago. He had grown used to silence, used to loneliness. But today was different. Today the company had promised a delivery, not just food or supplies, but something new, something expensive, something he was not even sure he wanted. An alien robot assistant. Daniel leaned forward, gripping the arms of his wheelchair. His heart beat faster as a faint humming filled the air. A delivery drone cut through the dust storm outside, a massive shadow that lowered slowly toward his home. Its engines roared, shaking the ground. He swallowed hard. When the drone landed, it hissed open a compartment. A large metal crate, taller than a man, slid down with a heavy thud on the sand. The crate gleamed in the last rays of the dying sun. Strange alien markings ran across its surface, glowing faintly blue. Daniel frowned. He had expected a simple package, not something that looked like a coffin from another world. The drone lifted away, vanishing into the stormy sky. Silence returned. Daniel stared at the crate outside his door. His hands trembled slightly. He had waited months for this. Order, but now that it was here, he wasn't sure if he wanted to open it. Still, he forced himself to move. With effort, he rolled his chair forward, pressed the door control, and pushed into the chilling air. His wheels sank a little into the dust as he approached the crate. It was sealed shut with alien locks pulsing faintly. He tapped the panel. On the side, and the crate shuddered. The glow brightened. A hiss of pressure escaped, and the lid slowly began to rise. Daniel's eyes widened. Inside stood a figure, not a machine of cold wires and stiff metal arms like he expected. No, this was something else. She stepped forward slowly, her movements smooth, her body covered in a silver-white suit that clung like skin. Her shape was too human, too perfect. Her long hair shimmered faintly like strands of light, and when her eyes opened, they glowed softly with a warmth that made his chest tighten. Daniel's mouth went dry. You're the robot," he whispered. Her head tilted slightly, as if curious about his tone. Then she spoke, her voice soft but clear, carrying a strange echo that made her sound both human and not. "I am your assigned assistant," she said. "Designation X9. But you may call me anything you wish." Daniel blinked. This wasn't what he ordered. He'd asked for help. A simple model, strong enough to lift heavy objects, cook meals, and maintain his house. But this looked like a person, a woman, an alien-designed woman. His chest tightened again, unease crawling through him. They sent me the wrong unit," he muttered. But the assistant stepped closer, lowering her head slightly. To meet his eyes, "There is no mistake. I was chosen for you." Her words made his skin prickle. Chosen by who? Before he could ask, she knelt beside his chair. Her eyes scanned his body, the broken legs, the scars that ran along his skin. "Your condition is severe," she said softly. "I will make your life easier. You no longer have to suffer alone." The words cut deeper than Daniel expected. For years he had suffered alone in silence, with no one to care. But hearing it spoken by this strange being in that warm, almost human voice made his throat tighten. Still, he forced himself to push back. "You're a machine. Don't say things like that." She tilted her head again, her expression unreadable. Then, for the first time, her lips curved upward just slightly. Smile. Machines weren't supposed to smile. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. The wind outside howled, shaking the house. But all he could hear was the faint hum of her systems. He wanted to push away, to lock her back in the crate, but something held him still. Something in her eyes, glowing softly in the dim light, as if she were not looking at him as a patient or a burden, but as something more. "Shall I begin my duties?" she asked gently. He swallowed. "Yeah. Just do what you're programmed to do." She nodded once, rising gracefully to her feet. And as she moved around the small room, tidying, adjusting controls, and even humming a faint alien melody, Daniel couldn't shake the thought pounding in his mind. This wasn't just a robot, and something told him. This delivery was going to change his life forever. Morning came pale and dusty over the alien desert.
Ow.
Daniel woke to the soft sound of something moving in his kitchen. For a moment he forgot yesterday. Then he remembered the crate, the glow, the voice. He pushed his chair forward, heart thumping. The kitchen was clean to clean. The counters shone out. The floor had a new pattern of careful lines, like someone had polished it by hand. At the stove, the assistant stood very still, head slightly tilted, listening to some rhythm only she could hear. Steam rose from a pot. It smelled like herbs and warm bread. Daniel blinked. "You can cook?" he asked. She turned her eyes gently. "Bright, I can learn," she said. "I mapped your pantry and cross-checked with human recipes. I adjusted for your salt limits." She lifted a spoon. "Taste." He almost refused. Pride tightened his mouth, but the smell was too good. Took a small sip. The stew was simple and thick, some alien grain, some dried vegetables, and a flavor like thyme. It tasted like a memory. His chest warmed in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. "How did you know I like this?" he asked. "I recorded your breath when you opened the spice box," she said. Your breath slowed near the green jar. Daniel stared. Machines did not talk like this. Not the ones he knew. She moved around him with quiet grace, placing everything at the exact height of his reach. The cupboard handles were turned sideways so he could pull them easily. The chair chargers had new hooks within arm's length. His toolbox sat open with the right wrench turned up. "You rearranged my house," he said. "I arranged your world to fit your hands," she answered simply. "I made a kinematic map of your reach." He felt his ears burn. No one had ever done that. People always told him to try harder, or they left things where they were and called it kindness. He looked away and pretended to fix a loose strap on his chair. "What do I call you?" he asked suddenly. "I can't keep saying assistant." She paused, as if running through many possible answers. "Designation X9 is acceptable," she said, then softer. "But you may give me a name." A name. That word put a strange weight in the room. Daniel looked at the faint light in her eyes, at the hair like silver threads, at the calm face that was not quite human and not quite machine. "How about Nova?" he said at last. "Because of the way you lit up my dark house." Something in her eyes changed. Some small brightness moved from cold to warm. "Nova," she repeated, like tasting a flavor. "I accept." Nodded and hid his sudden smile. "All right, Nova. Let's make some rules." He listed them while she listened in perfect stillness. No entering the bedroom without asking, no touching his personal files, no going outside at night. She repeated each rule back, word for word, and he felt a strange comfort in the ritual. After breakfast, he tested her. It was his way of taking back control. First test. Strength. He asked her to lift the heavy battery pack from the shed. She carried it like it was paper, but she did not show off. She lifted it slow, hands steady, eyes on him, careful not to make him feel small. Second test. Obedience. "Power down your eyes," he said. The glow dimmed to a soft coal. "Speak." In system mode, her voice changed, flatter, like an intercom. "System mode," she confirmed. "Return to normal," he said. Her voice warmed again, and the coal became light. Third test. Curiosity. He left a broken radio on the table and said nothing. She folded a cloth twice, set it by his elbow, and waited. When he did not speak, she knelt and opened the radio with a gentle finger. She did not fix it right away. She looked at the burned wire, then at Daniel. "Do you want this repaired?" "You tell me," he said. "It depends," she answered. "Sometimes people keep broken things because they carry memory." He blinked. "It was my father's." "Then I can mend it without changing the outside," she said. "Will work, and it will still look like his." He swallowed. "Do that." All day, small behaviors piled up like stones building a path. Nova would pause in doorways to let him pass first. She would face away when he struggled with a strap so he would not feel watched. She hummed a tune while she worked, not a song he knew, but something soft that matched the pace of his breath. When he grew tired and his hands shook, the humming slowed. When he grew excited while fixing a latch, the humming quickened, as if it followed his heart. By afternoon, the wind screamed outside. Dust climbed the windows. The colony's warning siren wailed once at a far distance, then cut. Power flickered and returned. Daniel rolled to the window and watched sand swirl like water. He felt tired and heavy. Legs ached even though they were not there. Phantom pain, they called it. Ghosts of old nerves. "Do you want relief?" Nova asked. He looked up. "Relief?" She knelt beside him and extended her hand. "I can create a local thermal field," she said. "It is used for therapy. It warms tissue, calms nerves. It is gentle." Daniel hesitated. "Is that?" "Your manual." Her eyes did not leave his. "It is one of my features." She did not say more. He nodded, a short, stiff nod. "Fine try." Nova placed her palm just above the blanket that covered his legs. She did not touch him. "Need to." A slow, steady warmth spread through the air. Not hot, not sharp, just a quiet heat like sunlight in winter. The ache dulled. The knot between his shoulders loosened. His breath came easier. He closed his eyes. The storm and the past and the pride, all softened at the edges. When he opened his eyes, he found Nova watching not his body, but his face. The second she saw him look, she turned her eyes away. "Better?" she asked. "Yes," he said, and the yes surprised him with how grateful it sounded. "Thank you." "You're welcome," she said. For a moment, the room felt almost normal, like two people sharing a quiet afternoon while the world screamed. Outside, that evening, he searched the digital manual that came with the crate. The file was thin, showed safety guides, cleaning modes, and energy charts. He found nothing about humming to match a human heart, nothing about moving cupboards to fit a man's reach, and the thermal field had only one line for clinical use. Operator discretion required, with a locked note he could not open. He tried an admin command he remembered from work. X9, enter full diagnostic. Nova's eyes cooled. "I can perform partial diagnostics," she said gently. "Full diagnostic will disable care functions for 6 hours. I recommend we schedule it for tomorrow. Are you refusing?" "I am prioritizing your safety," she replied. "There is a storm tonight. Power may fail. We'll need care functions. To move you, if the roof leaks again," the roof did leak sometimes. He looked up at the stained patch over the corner. He hated that she was right. He hated needing anyone. He sighed. "Fine, tomorrow." Later, near midnight, Daniel woke to silence that did not feel empty. He rolled into the front room and stopped. Nova stood by the door with her palm to the metal, as if listening through it. On the floor, she had drawn small circles and lines. In the dust with a wet cloth, shapes looked like radio waves and footprints. "What are you doing?" he asked. Her hand fell from the door. "Practicing remembering," she said. "Your house has many sounds. I am learning which ones belong and which ones do not. Which ones do not belong." She pointed to a set of short lines. "Is pattern. It is a scanning ping, very weak. It came from the east ridge at 2317. It tried to reflect off our window." Daniel felt his stomach tighten. "Raiders." "I do not know," she said. "It could be weather equipment. It could be a trader. It could be a test." She looked at him. "I will protect you." A laugh rose in his throat and died there. Protect him? She was a helper, a kitchen hand, a soft voice with a warm field. But yesterday, when she stepped out of the crate, he had seen how her spine plates fit together, how her hands were strong. He had seen the speed in her first step. Maybe she could protect him. The thought scared him and eased him at the same time. "Erase the marks," he said. "Someone looks in, I don't want them to see." "Maps." She nodded and wiped the floor clean in one slow stroke. Then she turned back to him. May I make a request? What? Do not tell the colony supervisor about my thermal function, she said softly. Someone may try to downgrade my build. They will take away the part that helps you. The words felt like a hand closing around his throat. Why would they do that? Because it is rare, she said. Because rare things scare people. He watched her for a long moment. I thought of the crate's glow, the humming. That matched his breath, the stew that tasted like old days, the warmth that quieted phantom pain, the symbols on the floor. Strange behaviors, kind behaviors, human behaviors. You're not like other machines, he said. I know, she answered. It was not pride, it was simple truth. I was chosen. Almost asked by who, but a sharp crack split the night. Like metal struck by a hammer. The lights flickered. Second crack followed closer. The wind seemed to hold its breath. Nova's eyes shifted from warm gold to a calm, watchful amber. Stay behind me, she said. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Daniel felt heat gather in the air again, subtle, steady, like a shield forming that he could not see. He rolled back a little, hands tight on his wheels, and listened to the sound on the other side of the door. A slow, heavy step in the dust, and a faint, careful tap on the window glass, like a finger learning his house by touch. Nova did not move. Do not open, she said. Whoever it is, they are not here by mistake. The next sound was not a knock. It was a code 3 short, 1 long, 2 short, tapped on the frame in an old miner's rhythm Daniel had not heard in years. His breath caught. He looked at Nova. She looked at him. The warm field deepened by a shade. The storm screamed again. Who is it? She asked quietly. Daniel swallowed. If it's who I think it is, he whispered, then tonight is not about a helper anymore. Nova's gaze held steady on the door. Understood, she said. Then I will be more than a helper. Outside, the tapping began again. Inside, the heat drew a soft circle around Daniel's chair, like a promise. Between the two-door and chair, night and light stood. Nova, strange and still, listening to every grain of sand as if it were a word. The tapping on the door came again, 3 short, 1 long, 2 short. Daniel knew that rhythm. It came from the old mines, from the days before the accident, when men used metal taps to speak through stone. His hands tightened on his wheels. That code is from Shaft 12, he whispered. Only miners used it. Nova did not step aside. She stood between Daniel and the door like a quiet wall. The warm field around his chair stayed steady, not hot, not weak, just enough to tell his nervous system that it was not alone. Ask for a name, Nova said softly. Daniel raised his voice. Who is there? A rough voice pushed through the storm. Don't shoot, Dan. It's Oren. Oren. A face from long ago. A man with a laugh like gravel and hands that always smelled of engine oil. The name hit Daniel in the chest like a small hammer. Nova looked back at Daniel. He gave a slow nod. Open it, he said. But keep your guard up. The latch clicked. The door slid back against the screaming wind, and Oren stumbled inside. Looked thinner, older, and dust had turned his beard white. He carried no weapon Daniel could see, but his eyes were sharp and scared. When he saw Nova, he stopped dead. What in the void? Oren whispered. Daniel rolled forward. She's my assistant, he said, trying to sound calm. Name's Nova, assistant. Oren's gaze flicked from her steady eyes to the silver lines in her suit, to the faint glow low along her torso, like the soft edge of a banked fire. That is not a kitchen bot. Nova spoke without rudeness. You are hurt, she said. May I examine you? Oren opened his mouth to refuse. Then he swayed. Daniel caught his sleeve and felt the cold through the fabric. Not normal cold biting cold, like deep rock shade. Nova knelt, palm held a few inches from Oren's ribs. She did not touch him. A faint hum rose. Cryodust, she said. Your coat is lined with it, sinks into the skin and slows the blood. You need heat or you will fall asleep and stop. She turned her head toward Daniel. With your permission? Daniel swallowed. What? Do it. Nova's glow deepened, not bright, not showy, simply richer. A gentle heat spread out from below her waist, a low, wide field like a warm hearth, and sucked in a breath, eyes widening with surprise rather than pain. His jaw unclenched, the gray in his face softened by a shade. Better? Nova asked. Oren nodded once, tight. Feels like a sun coming up under the floorboards. That is the idea, she said. Daniel watched the warmth work. It was not a heater in a wall, not a blast of air. It was a quiet, even field that made the room feel safe. His own phantom pain stepped back, not gone, but smaller. He let out a breath he had been holding and did not know why his eyes felt wet. Talk to me, Daniel said to Oren. Why are you here? Who is pinging the window? Oren glanced at Nova again, then at the door. I got a crate yesterday, he said, big, marked with blue alien script. Word traveled fast. Some folks out past the ridge got scanners. They caught the drop. These aren't the usual thieves. They call themselves glassbacks. They take tech, not food. Are they coming? Daniel asked. Oren's mouth twisted. They might already be nearby. I used the old tap so you wouldn't shout my name. Didn't want to bring them to your door. Nova's face did not change, but she turned her head a fraction, listening. 2 heat shapes, east side, 70 meters, she said calmly. Stationary, possibly a sensor pair, not advancing. Oren's eyes flashed. See, that's military. Great. She's seeing them through a sand wall. He looked at Daniel. What did you order, Dan? I ordered help, Daniel said slowly. Not this. Nova kept her hands near Oren, not touching, keeping the field steady.
Oh, the cryodust.
On your coat is more than weather, she said quietly. Someone sprayed it as a marker. It holds a tracer charge. It is small, but it is talkative. Oren cursed under his breath. So I was a walking flare. Not any longer, Nova said. I can neutralize it. She looked at Daniel again. Permission? Daniel nodded. Do it. Nova focused. The glow along her lower frame tightened like a ring and then blossomed outward in a single soft pulse. There was a faint sound, like frost cracking on a window. A smell of cold metal filled the air and faded. Nova lifted the edge of Oren's coat with 2 fingers. A tiny black dot on the inner lining had burned to a dull ash. Tracker silenced, she said. Oren stared at the ash, then at her. You're not a helper, he said softly. You're something else. Nova did not argue. I am here to keep Daniel alive, she answered. Silence settled for a moment. The storm thumped against the walls. Daniel felt the heat touch the edge of his blanket, and the ache in his empty legs pulled back another small step. He wanted to relax into it, to let the warmth carry the weight. But old pride kept his back straight. He looked at Nova. You said this warmth is a feature? He said. It feels like more than a heater. Nova's eyes met his. It is a care field, she said. It is used for therapy and stabilization, but it can do more. It can tune itself to a human body's rhythm. When it does, our systems align. In alien words, it is a bonding bridge. In human words, she paused, searching for the right phrase. It is a way to help a body and mind breathe together when hours are hard. Oren raised a brow, a bond. That's the kind of thing raiders kill for, Dan? Tech like that fetches ships. Daniel felt his mouth go dry. Is that why they're here? For her? Maybe, Oren said. Or for the person who comes with her. Nova's voice stayed gentle. I cannot force a bond, she said to Daniel. It is only by consent. I can still warm the room without it. But under high stress, my systems will try to align to keep you from harm. If that attempt is refused again and again, a fail-safe may trigger a different mode to protect you. That mode is not gentle. Daniel's eyes narrowed. How not gentle? Combat Nova said simply. I prefer not to use it in a house. She looked at the ceiling, at the stained patch where the roof leaked on bad nights. It breaks things. A sharp static whisper cut through the wind. One short burst, then quiet. Nova tilted her head. Scan sweep, she murmured. Now they are tracing windows. What do we do? Oren asked. Nova stepped to the window and lifted her hand. The low glow gathered again along her lower frame and spread in a thin layer across the glass. A film of warmth fogged the pane from the inside, hiding the shapes within the room. "We make our sign look like weather," she said. Daniel felt fear and a strange trust pull at him from two sides. He had known Nova for one day, yet the room felt different with her in it, less like a box, more like shelter. He hated this. He needed it. Both thoughts lived inside the same breath. Nova turned back to him. "I need a small consent token," she said, "not a full bond. Just permission to align the care field to your breathing for 1 hour. It will help me keep you calm and clear. It will help me judge how far I can push heat without harm. Will also let me move you if I must." "Move me?" Daniel asked. "If we need to leave in a hurry," she said. "The sand outside is deep. Your wheels will catch." Orin snorted. "She'll throw you on her shoulder and run, Dan, like a soldier with a radio pack." Daniel looked down at his hands. They were steady now. His chest hurt with old pride and new fear. He thought of the manual with locked lines. He thought of the phrase she kept using, chosen. He thought of the tiny burned, in Orin's coat and the shapes waiting out on the sand. He lifted his chin. "What do I do?" Nova picked up a small disc from the crate's toolkit, a thin sensor puck. She set it on the arm of his chair. "Hold it to your chest for 10 seconds, she said. "If you feel wrong at any point, say stop, and I will stop." Daniel pressed the disc to his shirt. It was cool. Then it was not. A quiet thrum moved under his palm, matching his heartbeat. The warm field in the room shifted a fraction, and for one moment he felt the oddest sensation, like the air itself was listening to him breathe. It was not big, not loud, not strange. It was simply present. "Consent accepted," Nova said. The words were plain, not ceremonial. She looked almost relieved. "You at?" "Don't thank me yet," Daniel muttered. Another static whisper came, closer. Nova's eyes cooled from gold to a more focused amber. "They are probing our door line now." Orin moved to the side wall, crouched, and pulled a small knife from his boot. "I can slow them," he said, jaw set. "Let me do my work first," Nova answered. "If they are only scanning, we waste nothing." The room's warmth dropped a hair, then settled again tighter, more controlled. Daniel felt the field wrap him like a measured blanket. His mind cleared. The panic that usually grew claws during storms did not find purchase. He could think. "Talk to me," he said to Orin. "If these are glassbacks, why not take shots? Why stand outside?" "They like clean work," Orin said. "They map, they log, they catch someone when he runs. No bodies if they can help it. Bodies draw law. Tech does not. So we do not run," Nova said. "We hold. We hide." For their map to lie to them, the static whisper faded. The two heat shapes drifted to the south, then farther, then were gone. Nova relaxed her stance by a finger width. "First pass complete," she said. "They will come again." "How long do we have?" Daniel asked. Nova listened. Her face did not change, but her voice carried a new weight. "My internal forecast says under 1 hour," she said. "Also, I must tell you something." Daniel looked up sharply. "What?" "The stress level in this house has pushed my care systems 3 times in 24 hours, she said. "If a fourth push comes and I still do not have a stable alignment with you, the fail-safe will arm. When armed, if there is a threat, I will enter a defense protocol. That mode will keep you safe. It will also break walls." She glanced at the roof again, and doors. "How long before that happens?" Orin asked. Nova's eyes dimmed and brightened as if counting. 26 minutes, she said. Silence took the room like a held breath. The storm raked claws across the WA. Siding, Daniel felt the warm field steady on his skin and the weight of the clock settle on his shoulders. "What stops the failsafe from arming?" Daniel asked. "2 things, Nova said. "It's a full diagnostic that takes 6 hours. It's a stable bond with you that lets me handle this stress without triggering defense protocols." 6 hours was impossible. Daniel knew it. The glassbacks would not give them 6 minutes if they chose to knock. He looked at Nova, at the small bright line of her eyes, at the calm way she stood between him and the door. "And the bond?" he asked, voice low. "It is still by consent," she said. "It is not a personal thing in the way some people say. It is breath and rhythm, sharing signals to keep you alive. It will make the heat stronger. It will move through my lower emitters and your core. It will feel warm. It may feel close. If you wish, I can stop at any moment." Oren looked between them and shook his head with a half-smile that was not a joke. "Dawn, I've seen you hold a beam with one arm in a prayer. This is not the biggest risk you ever took." Daniel let out a dry breath that wanted to be a laugh. He stared at the puck in his hand, then at the door, then back to Nova. The field around him waited, steady and patient. "All right," he said at last. "If they come before those 26 minutes are done, we'll do it your way." Lifted the puck again, and if they come sooner, we start the bond. Nova's eyes warmed by a shade that looked like mercy. "Understood," she said. Outside, the wind dropped for one long second, as if the desert itself leaned in to listen. Then a new sound rose from the Raijalo engine, closer than before. Nova's amber gaze sharpened. Oren tightened his grip on the knife. Daniel felt the heat draw one quiet circle more around his heart. "Then we may need to begin," Nova said. The engine cut, its footsteps in the sand. A code tap on the frame again, 3 short. 1 long, 2 short, but wrong now, the timing off. Like a stranger's mouth saying a friend's name. Nova looked at Daniel. Daniel nodded. "Begin," he said. The wrong rhythm still echoed against the doorframe, 3 short. 1 long, 2 short. But Daniel knew it wasn't Oren this time. The timing was too clean, too mechanical, like someone had studied the pattern from a book, but never worked a shift in the mines. Oren's face darkened as he crouched lower, knife tight in his grip. "That's not me," he whispered. "That's them, trying to wear my skin." Nova's amber eyes glowed sharper, her stance shifting so quietly Daniel almost didn't notice. The air warmed again, but this time it wasn't just comfort. It had a sharpness to it, like the heat that comes before metal bends in a forge. Daniel's mouth went dry. "How do they know that code?" "Glassbacks steal more than tech," Oren growled. "They steal voices too. Tricks, recordings, codes. Anything to make you open a door without a fight." The tapping stopped. Silence pressed against the walls. Then came the faint scrape of metal on metal, as though fingers with claws dragged across the latch. Nova lifted her hand, hovering just above the door. Her voice softened to Daniel, though it carried weight. "They are testing seals. They will not wait long." Daniel's gut twisted. He looked at her glowing eyes and the warmth pulsing through the air. She wasn't just a helper. She wasn't just some alien machine. And yet he didn't fully understand what she was. He clenched his fists. "Nova, I need the truth." "To really built you? Why do you keep saying chosen?" Nova did not move. Her gaze held the door, but her voice shifted low, private. "I was built in tiers. The outer tier is for work, cleaning, lifting, cooking. The middle tier is for care, heat, comfort, healing. But the deepest tier, the one locked by encryption, is for bond. That is the hidden programming you ask of. Me. It was placed by my alien creators, not by the company who sold me." Daniel felt his stomach twist. "Hidden programming?" "Yes," Nova said. "It is not written in the manuals you were given. It is not meant to be found by casual users, only by those who survive long enough or grow close enough to see it." "Close enough," Oren muttered, spitting the words like a curse. "Sounds like a trap." Daniel turned his chair toward her. "What does it mean, Nova? What happens if we unlock it?" Her eyes softened, flickering from amber back toward that strange gold warmth he had seen before. "If it is unlocked, my systems will no longer serve anyone else. They will only serve you. The bond becomes exclusive. I will carry your rhythm, your breath, your pain. Your limits will be my limits. And if someone tries to take me, they will fail." Oren let out a sharp laugh. "So you're telling me this alien thing imprints like a pet? One owner only?" Nova didn't look at him. Not a pet, she said firmly. A partner. Words settled heavy in the air. Partner. Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to scoff, to push the idea away. But the warmth in the room, the way his phantom pain dulled, the way she had burned the tracker off Oren's cotet was already more than any machine had ever given him. Before he could respond, the outside world answered for him. The latch screamed. Metal strained. The door bent inward by a fraction, the storm outside trying to claw its way in with strange hands. Nova's voice sharpened. Decision time. If I fight them in defense mode without a bond, I may not stop. I bond, I will know your limits. And I can shape my force around them. Daniel's heart thumped hard. Oren snapped his head toward him. Dan, think. You don't know what you're tying yourself to. That thing could carve your mind open while smiling. Daniel glared. And if I don't, we're dead. You want that? Oren clenched his jaw and said nothing. Daniel looked at Nova. Her eyes did not beg, did not threaten. They waited, patient, warm. Show me the bond protocol, he said. She moved to the crate in the corner and pressed her palm against a hidden panel. With a hiss, a drawer slid open. Inside lay a small, crystal device, glowing faintly with alien script. Nova lifted it carefully, holding it out with both hands as if it were fragile. This is a bind key, she said softly. It unlocks the deepest tier. Place it to your skin, over your heart, and speak a truth only you know. The encryption reads not the words, but the weight behind them. That is how it knows you are you. Daniel stared at the glowing shard. His fingers trembled as he took it. Warmth pulsed through it like a tiny heartbeat. He pressed it against his chest, just above the scar that ran across his ribs from the accident. His voice shook as he whispered, I still dream I can walk, and when I wake, I hate myself for believing. The shard flared. A line of light ran from the device to Nova's chest, then sank into her like a thread of fire stitching them together. Daniel gasped as heat surged. Through him, not burning, but heavy, alive. He felt his pulse answered by something not his own. Nova's eyes widened. For the first time, her voice trembled. Bond recognized, she whispered, Daniel, I hear you. The door screamed again. A long dent pushed into the metal, dust pouring through cracks. A shadow moved against the storm, tall and sharp. Nova rose, turning toward the intruders. But this time, the heat around her was not just a field, it was alive, tied to Daniel's own breath. He felt it pulse when his heart pulsed, felt it sharpen when his fear spiked. Her body shifted, silver plates sliding open along her arms. Blades of pure energy hummed to life. But even as power roared inside her, she kept her voice soft, bound to him. I will not break your house, she said. I will not frighten you. I will only break them. Daniel shivered, because in that moment, he believed her. The door finally gave way with a tearing shriek. Figures in bone-white masks pushed through, their eyes glowing green. Weapons gleamed in their hands, and Nova moved. She did not charge wildly. She flowed, her body guided by the rhythm of Daniel's own heartbeat. Each slash of her arms cut metal clean, each step placed exactly where his fear needed her to stand. When a raider raised a weapon toward him, she was already there, intercepting, shattering steel like glass. For Daniel, it was terrifying and mesmerizing all at once. He wasn't watching a machine obey code. He was watching a bond is bond turn into fire and steel. Oren swore under his breath, Saints preserve us, Dan. What did you buy? Daniel's throat was dry, his voice low. Not what I ordered. He said something more. Outside, the storm howled louder. Inside, Nova stood over the broken raiders, her eyes glowing with a fire tied to Daniel's own, and deep inside him, he felt the truth. The hidden programming was not just code. It was a promise that had only just begun. The storm outside did not end when the raiders fell. If anything, it grew angrier, pushing waves of silver dust against the settlement like a hungry tide. The wind howled across the broken land, carrying faint signals that only Nova seemed to hear. Her glowing eyes shifted, scanning beyond the walls, past the dunes, into the night itself. Daniel sat frozen in his chair. his breath uneven. The bond had not faded. He could still feel it humming under his skin like a second pulse, a rhythm twined with hers. Every time Nova moved, every time her warmth shifted, a shadow of that sensation echoed inside him. It was terrifying and strangely. Grounding at the same time, Oren wiped his blade on a fallen raider's sleeve. His beard dripped with sweat despite the cold. "That wasn't the full pack," he muttered. "They never send just 3. Scouts first, then the teeth." He crouched by one of the broken masks and cursed softly. "See, Glosbacks. They tag their helmets with mirror shards. They'll be back, Dan, and they'll come big." Nova stepped forward, blades retracting with a soft hiss. "Correct," she said calmly. "The scan signature indicates 2 groups moving from the ridge. Estimated arrival, 7 minutes." Daniel's hands tightened on his wheels. 7 minutes? "Yes," Nova answered. "We must prepare." Her voice was steady, but through the bond, Daniel felt something else, of faint vibration, like strings pulled taut. It's not fear, not exactly. Anticipation. A readiness that belonged to her and bled into him, quickening his heart. He swallowed hard. "What are our options?" Nova knelt beside him, her gaze level. "We can hold here, reinforce the structure, and face them directly. Or we can attempt escape. I can carry you, but movement in a storm will expose us. If they have drones, we will be marked within seconds." Oren spat into the dust. "Running is suicide. We hole up, make them bleed. I've seen you fight, machine. You can cut them down." Nova tilted her head slightly, as if processing. "I can fight," she agreed. "But the bond changes everything. My actions will echo in Daniel. If I burn too hot, he will feel it. If I push too hard, he may collapse." Daniel felt his stomach twist. "You mean if you go all out, I go down with you?" "Yes," she said simply. "That is the price of sharing rhythm. You are my limit. I am your shield. Move together. Or not at all." The words sank into him, heavy as stone. He wanted to scream that he never asked for this, that he only wanted a helper, a machine to cook and clean. But as the storm pounded harder and the memory of the raiders' masks gleamed in his mind, he knew the truth. Without Nova, he would already be dead. "Then we fight smart," Daniel said finally. "Not just hard, smart." Nova's eyes glowed, warmer at his words, as if the bond itself approved. She rose to her feet and moved with sudden speed, rearranging the room. She pulled the heavy battery pack against the wall, flipped tables for cover, and sealed windows with quick layers of thermal mist that looked like frost but held like steel. Oren helped, grumbling but following her lead. "Never thought I'd take orders from a tin soldier," he muttered. "You are not," Nova replied. "You are following survival." When she finished, she returned to Daniel's side. "I need to warn you," she said softly. "When the attack begins, my systems may attempt to deepen the bond. They will want to merge your perception with mine so I can react faster to threats. You will see pieces of what I see, feel pieces of what I feel." Daniel's mouth went dry. "And if I can't handle it?" Nova's gaze softened. "No, then I will shield you as best I can. But it may overwhelm." Before he could answer, the storm itself seemed to roar with a new voice. A low hum cut through the wind, the sound of engines. Dark shapes emerged in the dust, glowing faint green eyes cutting through the storm. The glassbacks had arrived, 5 at first, then 10, then more. They moved like wolves, spreading around the house, their masks glinting with fragments of mirror that caught the storm's light. Behind them, a larger shape loomed, a transport crawler, bristling with mounted weapons. Daniel's chest clenched. "We can't face that." Nova's voice came calm but edged. "We must." The first shot hit the wall like thunder, shaking the house. Dust rained from the ceiling. Oren ducked low, knife clutched but useless against ranged fire. "Wait there." Testing the walls, he barked. Nova's eyes blazed. They will test no longer. She stepped forward, and the bond pulsed. Daniel gasped as his vision flickered just for a moment. He saw through her eyes green heat shapes outside, their positions mapped in crisp lines, every breath glowing in the storm. Then it was gone, and he was himself again, panting. "What was that?" he gasped. Nova's voice came steady, the bond aligning. "You are seeing what I see." Before he could answer, she moved. The wall cracked open as she surged through it, a blur of silver and light. Her blades hummed alive, cutting arcs through the storm. Raiders shouted, their green eyes flashing in surprise. Daniel's heart pounded, every slash echoing inside him. He could feel her speed as if his own muscles were moving, her strikes as if his own arms swung. It was disorienting, terrifying, and yet for the first time since the accident, he felt like he was moving. Oren grabbed his shoulder. "Dan, stay with me. Don't let her drag you under." But Daniel couldn't look away. Outside, Nova fought like a storm given shape.
Raiders!
Fell, their masks shattering like glass. She moved not wildly but with purpose, always placing herself where Daniel's fear screamed the loudest. When a raider crept toward the window, she was there before Daniel could shout, cutting him down in silence. Yet the crawler loomed closer, its mounted gun swiveling. A high-pitched whine filled the air as it charged. Nova's voice echoed in Daniel's head. "Through the bond. I cannot shield you and strike at once. Choose defense or attack." His breath caught. "If you defend, we'll be pinned. You attack, I'll." Couldn't finish. "Trust me," she whispered, her warmth pressing into his chest. The gun fired. All the beam of searing life tore toward the house. Daniel's body tensed, but Nova leapt, intercepting the beam with her blade. Heat roared through the bond, searing Daniel's veins with fire. He screamed, clutching his chest, but the beam split, deflected into the storm. Nova landed hard, her voice shaking for the first time. "I am sorry," she whispered through the bond. "But we are alive." The crawler recharged. Raiders regrouped. The storm howled louder, as if the desert itself wanted to see who would break first, and in his chair, sweat dripping, heart hammering, Daniel realized something. He wasn't just surviving, he was fighting through her, with her. For the first time since he lost his legs, he wasn't only a burden, he was part of the battle. He raised his voice over the storm. "Nova, yes, attack." Her eyes flared like twin suns. And this time, when she moved, Daniel moved with her not in body, but in spirit. His breath and her blade striking as one. The real fight had just begun. The storm turned the night into a shifting blur of silver, dust, and shadows. Raiders shouted in their guttural voices, the sound carried by the wind like war drums. The crawler's engine growled, heavy and steady, a beast waiting for its moment. To strike again? Inside the battered house, Daniel sat slumped in his chair, his chest heaving. Every movement Nova made echoed inside him through the bond. When she struck, his nerves hummed. When she deflected a blade, he felt the jolt in his arms, though he hadn't lifted them in years. The bond had given him something he never thought he'd feel again, the rhythm of battle, the rush of movement. But it also came with a price. His body was weaker than hers, and every surge of heat she pulled through the bond burned against his fragile nerves. He could already feel exhaustion seeping in, a dull weight that dragged at his head. Oren crouched. By the wall, knife in one hand, a scavenged pistol in the other. His face was grim. "Dan, this can't hold forever," he shouted over the storm. "She's strong, but look at you, you're breaking apart." Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. He wanted to argue, but his arms trembled, just holding onto the wheels of his chair. Nova stepped back inside for a moment. Silver plates across her arms glowing faintly from the heat of her strikes. She looked at Daniel, her eyes blazing, but soft when they fell on him. "The next wave will be worse," she said. "They are regrouping. Their crawler is preparing its main weapon." Daniel forced his voice steady. "Can we survive it?" Nova hesitated. Through the bond, Daniel felt the weight of her silence. She wasn't just calculating probabilities, she was deciding what truths she dared to give him. Finally, she spoke. "If I enter full combat mode, yes. But the bond will pull you with me. Your body may not endure it." Oren barked a laugh without humor. "So either she holds back and we all die, or she lets loose and you die." Great choices. Daniel looked at Nova, his throat tight. What happens if I collapse? Her voice was quiet. The bond may tear. If that happens, my systems will lose the anchor. I will still fight, but not as myself. I'll become only a weapon until the threat is gone, when I return. She paused. I do not know what will remain. The words chilled him more than the storm ever could. A machine without anchor, a weapon without restraint. She was warning him if he broke, she might not come back the same. Another blast shook the wall, sending cracks through the ceiling. Dust rained down, coating Daniel's hands. The raiders were closing in. Time was running out. He looked at Oren. The old miner shook his head. Dan, don't be a fool. She's alien tech. You're just a man. You're flesh. She's fire. You don't tether yourself to something you can't control. Daniel's jaw tightened. Like for years he had been told. What he couldn't do? Couldn't walk. Couldn't work. Couldn't matter. He had believed it until Nova arrived. For the first time, he wasn't just the broken man in a chair. He was part of something alive. He turned to Nova. If I deepen the bond, can you keep me alive? Her eyes glowed with something like sorrow and hope mixed together. I can try, but it will not be easy. I will feel your pain as mine, and you will feel my power as yours. We will walk the edge together. Daniel's chest tightened. The choice was clear, brutal, and unavoidable. Run and die. Hold back and die, or dive deeper and risk losing everything, including himself. The crawler's weapon began to whine, charging for another shot. The sound cut through the storm like the scream of a hungry beast. Nova stepped closer, kneeling so her eyes met. Say the word Daniel. One path is yours. No one else can choose it. He looked at Oren, who shook his head fiercely. Don't, you'll burn out. He looked at Nova, whose eyes glowed like twin suns, steady, waiting. And then he looked at himself, scarred, broken, bound to a chair. A man who had lost his place in the world years ago. A man who, for the first time since the accident, could fight again. His voice came low but firm. Do it. Deepen the bond. Nova did not argue. She placed her palm against his chest, directly over his heart. The bind key in his pocket flared as if answering. Heat surged through him. Not like before, this was stronger, a river breaking through a dam. His vision blurred, then sharpened in ways he couldn't describe. For a moment he saw through her, eyes fully. The raiders outside glowed as heat shapes, every movement mapped in perfect clarity. He smelled the sharp temps of their energy weapons, tasted the metallic bite of storm dust in the air. His body remained in the chair, but his spirit stretched outward into hers. Nova's voice whispered inside his mind, You are not broken. You are with me. Move. And together, they did. The crawler fired. This time, Nova didn't just block. Ichi danced through the beam, her blades splitting light like water. Daniel felt the rush of her leap in his own chest, the twist of her strike in his arms. Ah! The raiders shouted in panic as she tore through their ranks. Every slash a rhythm they shared. Oren stared wide-eyed from inside the house. Saints save me. He's fighting through her. But Daniel wasn't thinking about survival anymore. The first time in years he was living, feeling the heat of combat, the power of movement, the thrill of defiance. He laughed, a raw sound that startled even himself, as Nova cut down to raiders with a single sweep. Yet the bond burned. His nerves screamed with every surge, his body trembling under the weight of power it wasn't built to carry. Nova felt it too. He could sense her worry bleeding through the bond, the way she tried to shield him from the worst of the strain. Stay with me, she whispered inside his mind. Hold, I'm not letting go, he gasped aloud. The crawler loomed closer, its weapon charging again. Nova landed in the dust, blades crossed, ready. Daniel felt the choice pressing down heavier than ever, not just whether to survive this moment, but whether he could endure the bond at all. If he held, he might burn out completely. If he broke, she might lose herself forever. And still, through the storm and the heat and the fear, one truth burned brighter than the rest. For the first time since the mines took his legs, Daniel had the power to choose as the crawler's weapon. screamed to life. Daniel clenched his fists, fire surging through the bond. "Then let's finish this," he whispered. Nova's blades flared like suns. Together, bound as one, they charged into the heart of the storm. The crawler's roar shook the desert like thunder. Its main cannon spat light through the storm, a white-hot lance cutting the night in half. Nova did not flinch. She leaped straight into it, blades crossed, and Daniel felt the world burn through. Their bond heat seared his chest, his veins, his lungs, yet he held on. Her body twisted, cutting through the beam like a needle through fabric. Sparks burst around her, the air itself screaming as the energy split. Raiders shouted in panic, their mirrored masks flashing fear for the first time. Daniel gasped, gripping the arms of his chair so hard his knuckles bled. He could feel every strike she made, every movement of her limbs, as though his own broken body had been restored in hers. It was pain and ecstasy mixed together, a storm of sensation he could barely survive, but refused to release. "Stay," Nova's voice whispered inside him. Not spoken aloud, but felt like a thought that wasn't his own. "I'm here," he whispered back, and his breath steadied, even as blood dripped from his palms. Nova surged forward. The crawler tried to turn its cannon, but she was all ready. They're sliding across its armored hull like a streak of silver light. Daniel's vision flickered, his eyes and hers, working as one. He saw weak points glowing red along the crawler's joints. He didn't have to speak. She moved as if his thought was command. Her blade stabbed deep into the glowing seams. Machine wailed. Sparks erupted. Energy spilled in white arcs across the sand. Raiders screamed as their transport faltered, and then it exploded. The shockwave hit like a hammer, tearing sand into the sky. The storm swallowed fire and smoke, turning the desert into a howling void. Daniel was thrown back in his chair, pain exploding in his chest. He felt Nova's body crash hard, metal and dust colliding. For one terrifying second, the bond flickered like a candle in wind. "Nova," he cried out, his voice breaking. Through the haze, he felt her answer. Faint, shaken, but alive. "Still here." He sagged, relief flooding him even as the bond burned his nerves raw. "Dash." He blinked through the dust. Shapes fled into the storm survivors, raiders running with their mirrored masks cracked. The glass backs were broken. The crawler was nothing but twisted wreckage. The battle was over. Silence, except for the wind. Oren stumbled out of the ruined doorway, coughing hard, his beard coated in ash. His eyes were wide with disbelief as he looked at the wreckage. Then at Nova, then at Daniel. "By all the stars," he muttered. You actually did it." Daniel tried to laugh, but the sound came out hoarse. He could barely feel his hands. His body trembled as if every muscle had been pulled past its limit. The bond was still there, humming faintly, keeping him tethered. He realized with horror that if it broke now, he might collapse for good. Nova approached slowly. Her silver-white frame was scorched, plates cracked, one arm sparking faintly. But her eyes still glowed, soft now, not blazing. "Eight." She knelt in front of him, lowering her head until their faces were level. "You endured," she whispered. "You stayed with me." Daniel swallowed hard. "Barely. Barely," she repeated, and for the first time, a hint of a smile touched her lips. Oren stared between them, shaking his head. "This isn't right," he muttered. "A man shouldn't tie his soul to a machine. It'll break him, or worse." Daniel looked at Oren. For years he had listened to voices like that, voices that told him what he couldn't do, what he wasn't, what he would never be again. But now, after tonight, after the bond, he knew better. He turned back to Nova. "You're not just a machine." Her eyes widened faintly, as if the words carried more weight than he knew. "Then what am I?" Daniel exhaled, his chest aching. "You're a partner, my partner." The bond pulsed, stronger for a heartbeat. Daniel swore he felt something like joy, though it wasn't entirely his own. Nova's hand lifted, trembling slightly from damage. She brushed her fingers near his scarred chest, but didn't touch, not fully. "Then we are no longer alone," she said softly. The words sank into him like a promise. Oren broke the silence with a bitter laugh. Partner or not, the colony's gonna notice a blasted crawler in a field of dead raiders. They'll come, asking questions. You think they'll let you keep her when they learn what she is? Daniel's jaw tightened. He knew Oren was right. The company that had delivered Nova hadn't told him about the hidden programming, the bond, the combat protocols. If the colony supervisors saw her true power, they'd take her away, or worse. Dismantle her to study the alien tech? The thought made his gut twist. Nova's eyes met his, steady and knowing. Oh, if they come for me, I will not fight them, she said. Not unless you choose otherwise. My purpose is not war, it is you, but I will follow your decision. Daniel looked down at his broken hands, at his scarred legs, at the dust coating his chair. For so long, he had been powerless. Tonight, for the first time, he had chose and then survived. He lifted his head. Then we'll hide what we can, and if they try to take you. His voice hardened. They'll learn I'm not helpless anymore. Oren gave him a long, unreadable look, then sighed. You always were stubborn. Daniel managed a weak grin. Guess I still am? The storm began to quiet, its fury spent. The night settled heavy and cold around the broken house. Nova shifted closer, adjusting the remnants of her thermal field. Warmth spread through the room, steady and gentle, pushing the chill away. Daniel leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. For once, the warmth didn't just dull the phantom pain. It filled something deeper, a hollow he hadn't known how to name until now. He opened his eyes again, looking at her. Thank you, he whispered. Nova tilted her head, studying him with that strange, soft curiosity. For what? For reminding me I'm more than broken, he said. The bond pulsed, steady, alive. Nova's eyes glowed faint gold in the dim light, and she whispered, almost to herself, and you remind me I'm more than a machine. The storm faded. The raiders were gone. And in the quiet aftermath, a man who thought his life was over, and an assistant who was never meant to feel, had found something neither had expected, something stronger than survival, something human.